Intake screens at Canal Street Pump Station number 4 are clogged again. Third time this week. I'm hip-deep in water that smells like diesel and rot, pulling apart the debris screen with a Johnson pry bar. 26 inches, the one with the bent handle from when I dropped it off the Claiborne Avenue overpass back in '09. My nephew Terrell keeps asking me why I don't just replace it. Because it's balanced right now, I tell him. The bend makes it easier to hook under grading. He doesn't get it. He's 22, thinks everything broken needs replacing instead of adapting to. Kid's studying environmental engineering at UNO, or he was, before the hurricane hit 3 weeks ago. Now he's on my crew, wearing borrowed Carhartt coveralls that don't fit right because his mother, my sister Denise, she needs him earning something while the university figures out which buildings are safe. Denise teaches 3rd grade at McDonough 42 Elementary on South Rampart. Schools closed indefinitely. Mold assessment pending. Everything's pending. Uncle Ray, you seeing this? Terrell's up on the walkway, pointing at the screens. I am seeing it. I'm right here in it, actually. The debris looks wrong. I fix pumps for a living. Been doing levee maintenance for Orleans Parish since 1997. I know what normal post-storm debris looks like. Tires, furniture, somebody's entire kitchen cabinet still attached to a wall section. This is different. This is soft. That's a body, Terrell says. His voice goes up on the word body, which, yeah, that's a body. Caught in the number 3 screen, face down in the current. Bloated up like the others we've been pulling out all week. Except this one's moving wrong. The current isn't that strong here. Call it in. I'm backing toward the ladder. Water's cold, 61 degrees. I checked the temperature gauge this morning because I was writing it down on the daily log like I always do. Force of habit. Following procedure even when nobody's checking anymore. Denise says I'm too rigid about rules, but rules are why this city didn't flood worse. Well, rules and the new pumps we installed on the East Bank. The Dutch-designed ones. I was on that crew. Spent 6 months learning how to maintain systems we didn't have parts for yet. Terrell's got his radio out. Dispatch, this is Cleanup Crew 7 for Alpha. We got another one at Canal Street 4. Requesting. He stops. Uncle Ray. It turned its head. No, it didn't. Bodies don't do that. I've been in the water every day since September 19th when Tropical Storm Odette hit us. Since the levees held this time, held mostly, but the pumps failed and half the lower 9th flooded anyway. I've seen bloated bodies. They float. They don't turn their heads, but I'm watching it turn its head. Watching the neck articulate despite the swelling. Despite the gray-green discoloration that means it's been in the water at least 72 hours. Watching it look at me. Terrell. At the pump station. My radio crackles. 7 for Alpha. What's your status? I should answer. I'm reaching for my radio, but I'm also still holding the pry bar, and I'm not letting go of the pry bar because something is very wrong about how that body is moving in the water. The current here runs southwest at 0.3 meters per second. I know because I calculated it last Tuesday when we were trying to figure out where the debris was accumulating. That body should be pressed against the screen by the current. It's not. It's pulling itself along the grating toward the ladder. Dispatch. My voice comes out steady. Good. This is crew lead Raymond Baptiste. We need... What do we need? We need police and probably also someone from health department. Got a situation here. Define situation. 7 for Alpha. How do I define this? Got what we thought was a floater, but it's moving wrong. Real wrong. Requesting you send somebody who knows about what? Contamination? Disease? I don't know what I'm looking at. Just send somebody. Now. Terrell's coming down the ladder. I want to tell him to stay up there, but he's already halfway down. Those coveralls still don't fit right. The legs are too long and he's gonna trip. Kid's smart, environmental engineering, he understands water chemistry, biological processes, stuff I only learned from manuals, but he's not careful enough. Takes after his mother. Denise always went headfirst into everything. Got her teaching credentials while working 2 jobs. Divorced her husband because he couldn't keep up. Raised Terrell by herself in the Treem when everybody said she should move out to Metairie where it's safer. Don't touch it. I tell him, I'm not going to touch it, but he's already closer than I want him to be, leaning over the water. The discoloration pattern. That's not normal decomposition. Look at the webbing between the fingers. I look, wish I hadn't. The hands gripping the grating. The fingers are too long now. Stretched. The webbing between them looks intentional, like something grew there instead of swelling. The fingernails are black but not from decay, from something else. The body pulls itself another few inches along the screen. Makes a sound. Not a moan, worse than a moan. Wet clicking, like something in the throat that isn't vocal cords anymore. We're leaving. I grab Terrell's shoulder, pull him toward the ladder. Now. But we should. Now. We're climbing. My boots slip on the wet rungs. Timberland Pros, 8 years old. The tread's shot, but I can't afford new ones yet. Not with Denise's school closed and me helping with Terrell's expenses. The radio's going crazy with chatter. Other crews reporting in. Hearing words that don't make sense together. Aggressive movement. Multiple contacts. Lower 9th sector. Contamination probable. We get to the walkway. Below us, the thing that used to be a person is still pulling itself along the screen. Toward the pump intake. Toward the pipes that lead into the city water management system. My phone buzzes. Text from Denise. School reopening assessment moved to Monday. They found something in the basement. Water damage worse than initial report. Love you. I'm staring at my phone. At the water damage report. At Monday. It's Friday. Monday is 3 days away. Uncle Ray. Terrell's looking past me, at the water beyond the pump station. At the flooded sections of the lower 9th where the levees held but the pumps didn't kick in fast enough. Where houses are still sitting in 4 feet of toxic floodwater mixed with sewage, chemicals, and everything the hurricane dragged in from the Gulf. How many bodies you think are still out there? I know the answer. I wrote it down on Tuesday during the evening briefing. Search and recovery teams estimated 138 confirmed fatalities. Estimated 200 more still missing. Missing means in the water. Missing means decomposing in the same toxic soup that just grew webbing between that body's fingers. We need to. I stop. Need to what? Tell somebody? I already called it in. Call Denise? Tell her what? Don't let Terrell help anymore? He needs the money. I need his help. The city needs everybody working to get the pumps running, get the water out, get people back in their houses before mold makes the whole parish uninhabitable. The radio crackles again. All units, this is dispatch. We're getting reports from multiple pump stations. Some kind of static. CDC protocols. All personnel are to maintain distance from flood zones until further. The transmission cuts out. Comes back. Different voice. Military. This is Army Corps of Engineers Emergency Management. All civilian crews are to evacuate pump stations immediately. I repeat, evacuate immediately. Federal response is en route. Terrell looks at me. Federal response. That's not normal. No. It's not normal. Corps of Engineers doesn't take over unless it's critical infrastructure failure. National security level. I've been through this once before in '05 when Katrina hit and the whole world watched us drown. When I spent 2 weeks pulling people off roofs because the pumps failed and the levees broke and the Corps of Engineers had built everything wrong in the first place. I'm supposed to evacuate. I'm looking at the water, at the pump station, at the intake pipes that lead to every house in this section of the city, at the thing on the screen that's still pulling itself toward those pipes. We can't just leave it there, Terrell says. He's right. We can't. If that thing gets into the pump system, into the water that people are using to wash clothes, cook food, brush their teeth. My radio, 7 for Alpha, confirm evacuation status. I thumb the transmit button. Copy dispatch. We're leaving. I don't key off the radio. I say to Terrell, get in the truck. Start the engine. I'll be right there. What are you going to do? Good question. I'm looking at the pry bar in my hand. At the pump controls 30 feet away. At the emergency cutoff that's supposed to be used only when there's catastrophic equipment failure. There's catastrophic equipment failure, just not the kind the manual describes. The truck is a 2004 Silverado with 200,000 miles and a rebuilt transmission I installed myself last year using parts from Eddie's salvage yard on Chef Menta Highway. Eddie's yard flooded. Eddie left for Houston during the evacuation and nobody's heard from him since. The truck runs fine anyway. Starts first time every time because I maintain it correctly. Denise says I care about the truck more than I care about dating. Maybe she's right. The truck doesn't require explanations about why I work 16-hour shifts or why I still live in the lower ninth or why I wake up at 2 a.m. sometimes checking weather reports. Terrell's in the passenger seat, checking his phone. Uncle Ray, you seeing social media right now? I'm driving, heading east toward the Corps of Engineers temporary headquarters at the old Walmart on Claiborne. I should have stayed at the pump station, should have documented the contamination, taken photos, followed procedure. Instead, I hit the emergency cutoff, shut down the entire intake system, and left. The manual says never leave a station unattended during shutdown. The manual doesn't say what to do when dead bodies start growing webbing between their fingers. What's social media saying? I don't look at his phone. Eyes on the road. The streets are still half flooded here, water reflecting the afternoon sun. 3:30 p.m. Golden hour light making everything look almost beautiful, almost normal. People in the bywater saying there's movement in the water. Multiple reports. Someone posted video but it's blurry. Just shows something under the surface near the Dauphine Street pump. The Dauphine pump. That's 2 miles from Canal Street 4. That's 2 miles in 3 hours if the contamination started this morning. Except, no. Wrong assumption. The bodies have been in the water for 3 weeks. Since Odette hit. Since the storm surge and the levee overflow and the pump failures. 3 weeks of decomposition in toxic floodwater contaminated with industrial chemicals, raw sewage, and according to the Corps preliminary report I saw Tuesday, elevated heavy metal concentrations. Biological material of unknown origin detected at multiple sites, and my personal favorite, further analysis recommended. Further analysis. They knew. The Corps knew something was wrong with the water composition. Uncle Ray, you're going 50 in a 30 zone. I slow down, hands tight on the steering wheel. The Corps knew and they sent us back into the water anyway. Sent me and Terrell and every other civilian contractor into contaminated flood zones with respirators and rubber gloves like that's gonna help against whatever grows webbing between a corpse's fingers in 3 weeks. My phone rings. Denise. I answer on speaker because Virginia traffic law says hands-free only and I follow traffic law even in Louisiana after a hurricane. Hey, Raymond. You okay? I'm seeing stuff on the news about pump station evacuations. Heading to Corps headquarters now to what? Report the thing I saw? The thing I should have documented properly? To check in. Where are you? Still at the house. They finally got the power back on our block an hour ago. I'm trying to salvage what I can from the freezer before everything spoils. She pauses. Is Terrell with you? I look at Terrell. He's still staring at his phone, scrolling through what looks like Twitter or maybe Facebook. Yeah, he's here. He's fine. Good. Keep him with you. Don't let him go back to his apartment. Terrell's apartment. Ground floor unit on Rampart Street, 6 blocks from the river. In the flood zone. He's been staying with Denise since the storm, but he keeps talking about going back, checking on his stuff, seeing if the mold remediation crew got to his building yet. Why? I asked Denise. What did you hear? Police scanner. They're evacuating the entire lower 9th residential sector. Mandatory evacuation, not advisory. They're saying 24 hours to clear out before they quarantine the whole area. Quarantine. That's a CDC word. That's a biological contamination word. That's not a word you use for flood damage. When did this start? I'm running calculations. Mandatory evac takes time. You need vehicles, routes, emergency shelters, notification systems. You don't implement that in 3 hours unless you already had it planned. They announced it 40 minutes ago. Raymond, what's going on? What did you see at the pump station? I should tell her. I should say, I saw a dead body that wasn't dead anymore, that moved wrong, that had webbing between its fingers like something out of biology textbooks, except wrong, intentionally wrong, evolved wrong. I should say, whatever's in the water isn't just contamination, it's active, it's changing things, and the Corps sent us into it anyway. What I actually say, just some weird debris, probably nothing. You need help packing? I'm not evacuating. I'm 7 blocks outside the zone. They're saying only the areas that flooded are mandatory. Her voice gets that edge it gets when she's decided something and doesn't want arguments. Besides, I'm not leaving my house again. Not after last time. Last time was Katrina. Last time was watching water pour through the lower ninth, watching the levees fail, watching houses, including Denise's first house, the one she bought in 2003 with her teaching salary, watching houses literally float off their foundations. She rebuilt, bought a new house on higher ground, 7 blocks north, spent 11 years making it perfect, painted the shutters bright blue because that's what their grandmother's house looked like, planted a garden, got Terrell through high school in that house. Denise, I'm not leaving. Final. Done. But you keep Terrell with you. Promise me. I look at Terrell. He's 22, old enough to make his own decisions, young enough to think he's invincible. I promise. I end the call. We're approaching the Walmart. There's a military checkpoint set up in the parking lot, National Guard, not regular Army. Louisiana National Guard in digital camo, carrying M4 rifles. After Katrina, they brought in National Guard from other states, tens of thousands of them, because Louisiana units were deployed overseas. Now they're back. Now they're here. Now they're setting up checkpoints with armed soldiers in a Walmart parking lot in New Orleans. Uncle Ray, they're not letting anyone through. He's right. There's a line of vehicles, contractors like us, city workers, utility trucks. The guard is turning everyone away. I pull up to the checkpoint. Soldier approaches, young guy, maybe 25, Louisiana accent. Sir, this area is restricted to authorized personnel only. You need to turn around. I show him my Orleans Parish badge. I'm crew lead for pump station maintenance. I need to report a situation at Canal Street 4. All reports can be filed online, sir. There's a form. This can't be filed online. I'm keeping my voice level. Professional. I need to speak to whoever's coordinating the Corps response. It's about the contamination. The soldier's expression changes. Just a flicker. Fear. He knows. They all know. Sir, I'm going to need you to pull your vehicle over there. He points to a section of the parking lot where other trucks are parked, where people are standing around looking confused or angry or both. Park. Get out. Terrell follows me. There's maybe 30 people here, other crews, some parish workers I recognize. Big Jimmy Laurent from the Industrial Canal Pump Station. He's my age, 48, been working levees longer than I have. Started after his house flooded in '95 during Hurricane George. Raymond. He walks over. You get kicked out of your station too? Had to evacuate. You see anything weird at your site? Define weird. He spits into a paper cup. Tobacco. Big Jimmy's been chewing since he was 16. Says it helps him think. I pulled 3 bodies out of the intake screens this morning. All of them were moving. Not current movement, actual movement. Coordinated. Like they were trying to get into the pipes. My stomach drops. 3? At your station alone. That's just what I pulled out. Could be more in the channels. He looks at the Walmart, at the guard checkpoint, at the soldiers with rifles. Corps finally sent someone to talk to us about an hour ago. Some lieutenant. Told us it was a chemical contamination issue, probably industrial runoff from the port. Told us to go home, stay out of the water, wait for further instructions. Chemical contamination doesn't make bodies move. I know. Big Jimmy spits again. I told him that. He told me I was probably seeing things due to stress and maybe I should talk to someone from mental health services. Like I'm hallucinating. Like 30 years of working these levees means I don't know what I'm looking at. Terrell's been quiet, listening. Now he speaks up. It's not chemical. It's biological. The contamination pattern, the physical changes, that's environmental adaptation. Something in the water is causing accelerated mutation in organic tissue. Big Jimmy looks at him. You're Denise's boy, the one studying over at UNO, environmental engineering, with a focus on ecosystem recovery and contamination response. Terrell's got his phone out, showing us something. I've been looking at the EPA reports from after Katrina. They found elevated levels of arsenic, lead, petroleum products, standard post-industrial flood contamination. But there were also unidentified organic compounds. The reports flagged them as requiring further analysis, but I can't find any follow-up studies. Because there weren't any. A new voice. Woman, 50s, wearing a CDC windbreaker over civilian clothes. She's approaching from the Walmart, walking past the guard checkpoint like she owns it. The follow-up analysis got classified in 2007. I'm Dr. Patricia Arnaud, epidemiology field lead. Which one of you is Raymond Baptiste? I raise my hand. Feel like I'm back in school. That's me. You're the one who shut down Canal Street for? She doesn't wait for confirmation. Good call. That intake was 30 seconds from contaminating the entire Marigny water supply. She pulls out a tablet, shows me a map. The city, color-coded. Red zones spreading from pump stations like ink in water. We've got active biological contamination at 7 sites. Probably more we haven't detected yet. The organisms are using the flood channels to spread. They're attracted to current, to movement, to the pumps. I finish. They're trying to get into the distribution system. Correct. She looks tired, like she hasn't slept since the storm. The initial vector was corpse colonization. Something in the floodwater, we're still identifying the pathogen, but it uses dead tissue as an incubation medium. 3 weeks of warm, chemically rich water created optimal conditions. Now we've got approximately 300 infected hosts mobile in the flood zones. 300 bodies. 300 things that used to be people. My sister lives 7 blocks from the mandatory evac zone. I say, what happens if those things get out of the water? Dr. Arnaud doesn't answer immediately. That's worse than an answer. We're implementing containment protocols. The National Guard is establishing a perimeter. Anyone inside the red zones needs to evacuate within the next 6 hours. 6 hours? Big Jimmy, you said 24 on the news. The situation is evolving faster than predicted. She's not looking at us. She's looking at her tablet at the red zone spreading. Mr. Baptiste, I need you to come with me. You have knowledge of the pump system infrastructure that we need for containment planning. What about my nephew? I point to Terrell. He stays here. He's an environmental engineer. He understands water systems and biological contamination. He's essential. Dr. Arnaud looks at Terrell, at his borrowed coveralls, at his phone full of EPA reports. But you both need to understand, what you're about to see is classified under emergency protocols. You talk about this outside official channels, you're looking at federal charges. I should say no. Should take Terrell back to Denise, get out of the city, let the federal government handle whatever's happening in the water. That's the smart choice. That's the safe choice. But I know these pumps. I know the levees, the channels, the infrastructure that keeps the city from drowning. And if 300 contaminated bodies are trying to get into the water system, I know where they'll go. Show me, I say. The Corps of Engineers Temporary Command Center is inside the Walmart. They've cleared out the grocery section, set up folding tables with laptops and radios and maps, so many maps. Street maps, elevation maps, water system maps, underground drainage maps showing the labyrinth of pipes and tunnels that run beneath New Orleans like arteries. I know these tunnels. I've been down there. You have to go down there when the pumps fail, when debris clogs the main lines, when the city is drowning and somebody needs to manually clear the blockages in 4 feet of toxic water in pitch darkness. Dr. Arnaud leads us to the main table. There's a Corps officer there, Colonel Blanchard, according to his name tape, and 2 others I don't recognize. Government badges. Maybe FBI, maybe something else. This is Raymond Baptiste and Terrell Washington, Dr. Arnault says. Baptiste knows the pump system. Washington has relevant educational background. Colonel Blanchard barely glances at us. He's staring at a screen showing live drone footage. The lower ninth from above. Flooded streets, submerged houses, and in the water movement. Lots of movement. Dark shapes just beneath the surface, converging toward pump stations. How many? Blanchard asks. One of the government badges answers. Latest count shows 312 confirmed mobile entities. Estimation model suggests possibly 500 total if we factor in the decomposition rate and... I don't want estimations. I want counts. Blanchard's voice is flat. Military. Baptiste, you worked on the post-Katrina pump upgrades. Tell me about the intake system vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities. He wants to know where things can get in. The screens are supposed to catch debris larger than 6 inches. Anything smaller goes through to the secondary filters. From there, it's straight into the distribution pipes. I point to the map, but the screens are damaged. 3 weeks of storm debris, trees, cars, houses. Everything slammed into those gratings. Most of them have holes now. We've been patching as we go, but so the entities can bypass the screens. Not a question. If they're small enough, or if they can change shape. I'm remembering the webbing between the fingers, the elongated proportions. Are they still growing? Still mutating? Dr. Arnault pulls up something on her tablet. Photographs. Bodies. Except they're not bodies anymore. They're something else. The legs have fused together, tapered, designed for swimming. The arms are longer, jointed wrong. The heads are, I look away. Terrell doesn't look away. That's not random mutation. That's directed evolution. Something's rewriting their biology with a specific survival strategy. The pathogen, Dr. Arnault says. We're calling it Organism X because we don't have a proper classification yet. It's waterborne, thrives in chemically contaminated environments, and uses deceased tissue as an initial host. Once established, it rewrites the cellular structure for aquatic optimization and... She stops. We think it's intelligent. Not the host, the pathogen itself. Intelligent. A waterborne pathogen that's intelligent. That's using dead bodies to spread through the city's water system. That's... How did this start? Ask. Organisms don't just appear. Where did it come from? The 2 government badges exchange looks. One of them speaks. That's classified. Classified. I'm not asking. I'm stating. You knew. You knew there was something in the water after Katrina. Those unidentified organic compounds in the EPA reports. That was this. And you let us go back in there anyway. The contamination was considered contained after '05, the badge says. The chlorine treatment should have neutralized. Should have. Terrell. His voice is shaking. Should have. But it didn't. It adapted. It evolved. And you sent crews back into contaminated water for 3 weeks without telling them what they were being exposed to. Colonel Blanchard holds up a hand. This isn't helping. What's done is done. Right now, we need to focus on containment. He looks at me. Baptiste, I need you to tell me how to shut down every pump station simultaneously. Complete system shutdown. Nothing goes in, nothing goes out. I run the calculations in my head. System map, power requirements, manual override protocols. The control systems are networked, but they have local failsafes. You'd need to physically access each station, shut them down manually. That's 34 stations across the parish. With current staffing and the evacuation, maybe 12 hours to hit them all. We don't have 12 hours. Dr. Arnault, the infection rate is exponential. Every host that enters the distribution system can contaminate thousands of points. And once it's in the pipes, once people start drinking it, bathing in it, she doesn't finish. Doesn't need to. I understand. I'm seeing it in my head. The pathogen spreading through the water system, reaching houses, reaching people, reaching Denise's house 7 blocks outside the mandatory evacuation zone, reaching the whole city. There's another option. I'm looking at the map, at the industrial canal, at the lock system. You flood it. Open the levees, let the river in. The current will flush everything downstream into the Gulf. Silence. Everyone's staring at me. That would flood the entire lower ninth, Colonel Blanchard says. Everything below sea level. He checks a computer. That's 40,000 residential structures. Most of them already damaged from the storm. Most of them occupied by people who refused to evacuate. How many people? Terrell asks. Quiet. Estimated 8,000 still in the flood zone. 8,000 people. 8,000 versus 300,000 if the contamination reaches the main water supply. The math is simple. The math is terrible. We're not flooding the lower ninth. One of the badges says, that's genocide. We'll find another way. What other way? I'm looking at him. At his clean suit, his federal badge, his complete lack of water on his shoes. You going to send the military in? Send soldiers into contaminated water with rifles to shoot waterborne pathogens? This isn't a movie. This is reality. And in reality, sometimes you have to sacrifice. My phone rings. Denise, I shouldn't answer. We're in the middle of a federal emergency response planning session. But my hand is already moving, already pressing answer, already lifting the phone to my ear. Raymond. Her voice is wrong. Stressed. Scared. Raymond, there's something in the basement. I went down to check the water heater and there's something moving in the water. In the sump pump basin. I can hear it. The sump pump. The drain. The connection to the underground drainage system. The system that connects every house in the lower ninth to every pump station to every contaminated flood channel. Get out of the basement, I tell her. Now, don't touch the water. Don't go near the drains. Get upstairs and what? Call the police? The police who are evacuating 8,000 people from the flood zone? The National Guard who are setting up containment perimeters? Raymond, what's happening? I look at the map. At Denise's house, 7 blocks outside the red zone. 7 blocks. The contamination is spreading faster than predicted. Faster than the evacuation. Faster than containment. I'm coming to get you, I say. Pack a bag. Light, just essentials. I'll be there in 20 minutes. The news says only flood zones need to evacuate. The news is wrong. Pack. Now. I end the call. Look at Colonel Blanchard. At Dr. Arnaud. At Terrell, whose face has gone white because he understands. His mother's house. His apartment. His entire neighborhood. I need to go get my sister, I say. She's in the contamination spread zone. Negative, Blanchard says. You're essential personnel now. You don't leave this facility without clearance. Like that means something. Like that's more important than Denise, who raised Terrell by herself, who survived Katrina, who painted her shutters blue like our grandmother's house. Then give me clearance, I say. I can't do that. The moment we let personnel into the red zone, we lose containment. Everyone who goes in stays in until we establish whether they're contaminated. She's my sister. She's one person. I have 8,000 people to evacuate and 300 infected entities to contain. Blanchard's voice doesn't change. Flat. Military. You stay here. You help us shut down the pump system. That's how you save your sister. That's how you save everyone. Terrell grabs my arm. Uncle Ray, we have to go. We have to get Mom out. I'm doing the calculation. Time to get to Denise's house. 15 minutes if traffic is clear. Probably 30 with evacuation routes clogged. Time to convince her to leave. Unknown. She's stubborn, might refuse. Time to get back. Another 30 minutes minimum. Total, 90 minutes. Versus time to shut down the pump system with my help. 12 hours, according to my earlier estimate. Maybe less if we have military support. Maybe we can contain it. Maybe. The math is simple. The math is impossible. I need you to make a choice, Mr. Baptiste. Your sister or the city. My sister or the city. One person or hundreds of thousands. Family or duty. Personal or professional. That's not a choice. That's a hostage situation. What if Terrell stops? Starts again. What if I go? Uncle Ray stays here, helps with the shutdown. I go get Mom, bring her back. I know the system. I can avoid the worst contamination zones. Stick to elevated routes. Negative, Blanchard says. No one enters the red zone without. I'm going. Terrell. Final. Done. He sounds like Denise. You can arrest me after. But I'm not leaving my mother in a contamination zone while we have a planning meeting. He's already moving. Toward the exit. Past the guard checkpoint. I should stop him. Should grab him, hold him back. Tell him the city needs me here and he can't go alone, and I let him go. Dr. Arnaud's watching me. You just sent him into an active contamination zone. I know. He could be infected. Could bring it back here. I know. I'm watching Terrell disappear through the exit. Watching my sister's only son drive into water that changes dead bodies into things with webbing between their fingers. But he's right. I can't let Denise die because the federal government needs me to plan a system shutdown that might not even work. If your nephew compromises containment, then you'll have one more problem to deal with. Add it to the list. I turn back to the map, to the pump stations, to the underground labyrinth of pipes that I know better than anyone in this room. You want my help? Then help me. Give me a route plan that gets Terrell to my sister's house and back alive. And while we're doing that, I'll tell you exactly how to shut down every pump in this parish. The route I give Terrell takes him up St. Claude to Elysian Fields, cuts through the Marigny on elevated streets, approaches Denise's house from the north where the flooding was minimal. I'm watching his progress on a guard radio. They're tracking his phone, his truck, treating him like a contamination vector, which he probably is now. He's been driving for 12 minutes. Radio chatter says the mandatory evac is running behind schedule. Roads clogged. People refusing to leave. Standard disaster response problems, except this time there's an intelligent waterborne pathogen using the underground drainage system to spread. I'm at the main map table with Colonel Blanchard and a team of guard engineers. We've been marking pump stations on the map. Red pins for stations we can access safely, yellow for stations in contaminated zones, black for stations that are already compromised. 7 black pins. 7 pump stations where the organisms have reached the intake pipes. If we shut down power to the network, one of the engineers says, we kill the pumps, but we also kill the drainage. Everything backs up. The flood zones get deeper. Deeper water helps the organisms spread. Dr. Arnaud adds. She's been analyzing contamination patterns on her tablet. They're optimized for aquatic movement. More water equals faster distribution. So we can't shut down and we can't keep running. Blanchard, what's the third option? The third option. I'm looking at the map, at the industrial canal, at the lock system, at the Mississippi River flow rate, currently running at 450,000 cubic feet per second according to the USGS gauge at Carrollton. High flow from all the upstream rain. Enough current to flush anything downstream into the Gulf. We isolate the contaminated sections. I say, close the locks here and here. I point. That creates a contained basin. Then we open the river intakes, flood the basin with clean water from upstream. The current pushes the organisms downstream through the outfall canals into the Gulf. The river flow is strong enough, they won't be able to swim against it. You're talking about controlled flooding of the lower ninth. One of the badges. We already rejected that option. No. You rejected uncontrolled flooding of residential areas. This is different. We evacuate the target zone first, full evacuation, no exceptions. Then we flood only the areas that are already contaminated, the areas that are already lost. I'm pointing to the black pins. These pump stations, these neighborhoods, maybe 4 square miles total. We sacrifice those to save the rest. Silence. Everyone's doing the same calculation. For square miles, maybe 2,000 people still in that zone. Maybe fewer if the evacuation is working. How long to evacuate that area completely? Blanchard asks one of his officers. Current estimates? 6 hours minimum. Probably 8. My radio crackles. Guard frequency. Command, this is Perimeter Team 3. We have multiple sightings of entities emerging from drainage culverts in the bywater. Repeat, entities are leaving the water. Moving overland. Overland. Not in the water. On land. Walking. Dr. Arnaud pulls up footage on her tablet. Drone video. Grainy infrared. Shapes moving through flooded streets, pulling themselves onto sidewalks, onto porches, toward houses. The mutations are more advanced now. The legs work on land, the arms grip, the bodies move with purpose. Toward houses, toward people, toward new hosts. Do they attack living people? Ask. We don't know. This is the first time they've emerged from the water. Dr. Arnaud's voice is tight. But based on the pathogen's survival strategy, it needs hosts. Dead tissue is optimal, but living tissue might be. Her tablet chirps. New message. She reads it. Her face goes white. What? Blanchard. St. Claude Medical Center just reported. For patients in the emergency room, all presenting with the same symptoms. Fever, skin lesions, aggressive behavior. All of them came in after contact with floodwater. She looks up. The pathogen doesn't just use dead hosts. It can infect living people. Living people, not just the bodies in the water. Living people who touched the contaminated water, who waded through it, who tried to save their belongings, who helped with cleanup. People like me. People like Terrell. My radio. Uncle Ray. Terrell's voice. Static. Uncle Ray. I'm at Mom's house. Something's wrong with her. My hand is squeezing the radio so hard the plastic creaks. What do you mean wrong? She's got a fever. Says she felt fine an hour ago, but now. Uncle Ray, her hands. There's something growing between her fingers. No. When did she touch the water? My voice doesn't sound like mine. She said she went down to the basement this morning to check the sump pump. Put her hand in the water to clear debris from the drain. He checks. That was 5 hours ago. Uncle Ray, is she? Get her in the truck. Now, bring her here. Don't touch the water on her hands. Don't let her touch you. Just get her here. Okay. We're coming. The radio goes quiet. I'm staring at the map. At Denise's house. At the route Terrell has to take to get back. 15 minutes if traffic is clear. 20 if the evacuation routes are clogged. 20 minutes for a 5-hour infection to progress. Dr. Arnaud's beside me. Mr. Baptiste. If your sister is infected, then you can study her. You can figure out how to stop it. But she's coming here and you're going to help her. There's no cure. We don't even understand the mechanism. Once the pathogen establishes, then you better figure it out in the next 20 minutes. Colonel Blanchard's watching me. If she's infected, she can't enter this facility. CDC protocols require. I don't care about protocols. I'm in his face now, close enough to see the calculation in his eyes. The military math. 1 infected person versus containment of the facility. My sister taught 3rd grade for 18 years. She survived Katrina. She rebuilt. She raised her son by herself. And she got infected because your people, I point to the badges. Your people knew there was something in the water and sent us back in anyway. So she's coming here. And if you try to stop her, I walk. No controlled flooding. No third option. You handle this yourself. Blanchard doesn't move. Doesn't blink. Military statue. Then, she enters through quarantine. Medical examination. If Dr. Arnaud determines she's a containment risk, then we'll deal with it. I step back, turn to the map. But right now we have 20 minutes. So tell me, are we doing the controlled flooding or not? The calculation is happening behind Blanchard's eyes. I can see it. The numbers, the costs, the acceptable losses versus unacceptable risks. He's probably evacuated disaster zones before, probably made decisions that cost lives. That's what military command is, math with human variables. We flood the lower ninth, he says. 4 square mile target zone. Full evacuation first. We use the pumps we control to create the flood surge, push the organisms downstream before we lose the entire parish. He looks at his officers. I need evacuation completion in 6 hours. I need the lock closures ready in 4. And I need that pump shutdown protocol ready in 2. The protocol, right? The thing I promised to provide. The thing that requires me to explain 26 years of maintenance knowledge in a format that guard engineers can execute without killing themselves or breaking the system permanently. I start talking. Pump station layouts. Override procedures. Fail-safe protocols. Which valves to close first. Which circuits to shut down. How to manually seal the intake pipes. I'm drawing on maps, marking schematics, explaining the sequence. The engineers are recording everything: video, audio, written notes. This is my knowledge walking out the door. This is my job, my expertise, my purpose becoming documentation that anyone can follow. Terrell calls again. 8 minutes. Uncle Ray, Mom's getting worse. The fever's spiking. She's saying things that don't make sense. Talking about water. About going back to the water. Don't let her. I'm watching the route map. Watching the GPS tracker showing Terrell's truck moving through the city. Keep her in the truck. Keep talking to her. Tell her. What do I tell her? What do you say to your sister who's transforming into something that lives in contaminated water? Tell her I'm going to fix this. How? Uncle Ray, how are you going to fix this? Good question. I don't have an answer. I just have a map and a plan that floods 4 square miles of the city and maybe stops 300 infected hosts from reaching 300,000 people. The truck tracker is moving slower now. Traffic. Evacuation routes clogged with people who finally listened to the warnings. Terrell's 15 minutes away, then 12, then 10. Dr. Arnaud approaches. Mr. Baptiste, I need to be honest with you. Your sister's infection is progressing faster than any case we've documented. 5 hours from exposure to advanced symptoms, that suggests she's highly susceptible. Or the pathogen is accelerating. Can you stop it? I don't know. We have some experimental treatments, antiparasitics, broad-spectrum antivirals, but nothing's been tested on this organism. She might respond. She might not. And if the transformation completes, she stops. If the transformation completes, what? Then she won't be your sister anymore. She'll be a vector, an organism optimized for spreading the pathogen. And she'll need to return to the water, the contaminated flood zones that we're about to flush into the Gulf. The water where 300 entities are swimming through drainage channels trying to reach the city water supply. That water, Terrell's truck is 6 minutes away. 5, 4. Colonel Blanchard's receiving reports. Evacuation is 40% complete. We're pulling people out of the target zone, but we're running behind schedule. Some residents are refusing to leave. How many? Ask. Best estimate? 300 people still in the zone. Mostly elderly, disabled, or people without transportation. 300 people. The same number as infected hosts. The math keeps lining up in terrible ways. What happens to them? I know the answer. We keep trying. But if they won't evacuate, Blanchard doesn't finish. If they won't evacuate, they drown when we flood the zone. They drown, or they get infected, or they die trying to escape. Those are the options. That's the math. Terrell's truck pulls into the parking lot. I'm already moving. Through the Walmart, past the guard checkpoint, outside where the afternoon sun is still shining like everything is normal. Like the city isn't about to sacrifice 4 square miles of itself to stop a waterborne pathogen that's rewriting human biology. The Silverado's driver door opens. Terrell gets out. He looks terrified. Uncle Ray, I don't think she should. I'm already at the passenger door, opening it, looking at Denise. She's changed. Not completely, not like the thing at the pump station, but changing. The skin on her hands is gray-green. The webbing between her fingers is starting. The fever makes her eyes too bright, and she's staring at me like she doesn't quite recognize me. Raymond. Her voice sounds wrong. Raymond, I need to go back. There's water. I can hear it. No. I'm helping her out of the truck. She's hot, burning up. The fever's got to be 104, 105. You're staying here. Doctor's going to help you. There's water in the basement. I can hear it calling. All the bodies. All of us. We need to go back. All of us. She said we. Dr. Arnaud's there with a medical team. Gloves, masks, hazmat protocols. They're loading Denise onto a stretcher. She's fighting them, trying to get back to the truck, back to the water. How long until the transformation completes? I asked Dr. Arnaud. She's checking Denise's vitals, pupils, pulse, skin discoloration. Based on current progression rate, maybe 2 hours, maybe less, 2 hours. The lock closures are ready in 4 hours. The flood surge starts in 6. We're going to flood the lower 9th with Denise still inside the medical quarantine, with 300 people who refuse to evacuate, with my nephew standing next to me smelling like contaminated water because he drove through the flood zone to save his mother. Terrell, I'm looking at him, at his hands. Did you touch the water? At all? He checks his hands, his coveralls. Maybe. At Mom's house, the basement was flooded. I had to wade through it to get to her. How deep? Ankle deep. Maybe less. Ankle deep. Through his boots. Maybe not enough for infection. Maybe. You need to get examined. I tell him. Now. Uncle Ray, I'm fine. You're getting examined. That's not optional. I'm pulling him toward the medical team, toward Dr. Arnaud, who's already calling for additional quarantine space. He's pulling back. What about you? You've been in the water for 3 weeks. Every day. How do you know you're not infected? I don't know. I've been wearing waders, gloves, respirators, following protocols. But protocols don't stop intelligent waterborne pathogens. Protocols don't stop organisms that rewrite your biology in 5 hours. I'm getting examined too, I say, after I finish the pump shutdown protocol. Uncle Ray, after. Final. Done. I sound like Denise. I walk back inside, back to the map table, back to Colonel Blanchard, who's watching drone footage of the lower 9th, watching entities emerging from the water, watching the evacuation traffic crawling through clogged streets, watching the city prepare to drown itself to stop the infection from spreading. Your sister, he asks, in quarantine, advanced infection, maybe 2 hours before transformation completes. He nods, doesn't say he's sorry, doesn't say anything, just points to the map. We're ready for the lock closures. We're ready for the flood surge. But we're not ready for the pump shutdown. We need that protocol finalized in the next 90 minutes. 90 minutes. I look at the schematics, at the pump stations, at the shutdown sequence I've been explaining for the last hour. It's not enough. There are too many variables, too many things that can go wrong, too many ways for this to fail. But it's the only option we have. I start drawing, start explaining, start documenting 26 years of knowledge about pump systems and levee maintenance and flood control infrastructure. Start putting everything I know into a format that will work without me, because in 2 hours Denise might be transformed and Terrell might be infected and I might be contaminated and none of us might walk out of this facility alive. The engineers ask questions. I answer. The drone footage keeps playing on the screens. The entities keep emerging from the water. The evacuation keeps running behind schedule. The sun keeps shining through the windows like everything is fine. My radio crackles. Medical team. Mr. Baptiste, you need to come to quarantine. Your sister is asking for you. I look at the schematics, at the half-finished shutdown protocol, At Colonel Blanchard, who's watching me with that military calculation in his eyes. She doesn't have much time, the medical team says. Neither does the city. Neither do the 300 people in the target zone. Neither do the 300,000 people who'll get infected if we don't stop this now. My sister or the city. Family or duty. That's not a choice. That's an execution. I'm on my way, I say into the radio. Then I look at Blanchard. You have engineers here who can finish this. They have my notes. They have the procedures. They can execute without me. We need you to verify. You don't need me to verify. You need me to make you feel better about the decision you already made. But I'm not doing that. I'm going to see my sister. And you're going to flood the lower ninth whether I verify your protocol or not, because that's the math. That's the mission. That's what command does. I walk away, through the Walmart, past the frozen food section that still smells like spoiled meat from when the power failed during the hurricane, past the guard checkpoint, into the medical quarantine area they've set up in the garden section. Denise is on a gurney, restrained. The transformation is accelerating. The webbing between her fingers is complete now. Her legs are starting to fuse. The skin is changing color gray-green to deep blue-black. The discoloration pattern looks like water ripples. Terrell's beside her, holding her hand, the one that's still mostly human. He's crying. Mom, please, stay with me. She turns her head, looks at him. Recognition flickers in her eyes. Still human eyes, still Denise's eyes, but changing. The pupils are elongating, adapting for underwater vision. Baby, her voice is wet, clicking. Baby, I have to go back. The water, I can hear it. All of us. She stops, struggles. We're supposed to go back. That's what we do. That's what we're for now. Terrell, no, you're not for that. You're for teaching 3rd grade and painting shutters blue and being my mom. That's what you're for. She smiles. Still Denise's smile. Just barely. I love you. Tell Raymond. She looks at me. Tell Raymond I painted the shutters blue because that's what Grandma did. Because that's how you make something yours. You paint it the color of home. The color of home. Blue like water. Blue like the Gulf. Blue like the flood zones we're about to drown. Denise. I'm beside the gurney. Beside my sister who raised Terrell by herself. Who survived Katrina. Who went into her basement to check the sump pump and put her hand in contaminated water because that's what you do when you're trying to salvage your house. Denise, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to flood the zones and push the organisms into the Gulf and you're going to kill me. She's still smiling. Still Denise. That's okay. That's what you're supposed to do. The math. I understand the math. The math. She understands the math. She always understood the math, budgets, classroom sizes, odds of keeping a house in the lower ninth when everyone said she should move. She understood and she did it anyway because sometimes you choose the hard thing because it's yours. I'm sorry, I tell her. Denise, I'm so sorry. Don't be. Her hand tightens on Terrell's. Still has grip strength. Still fighting the transformation. You save the city. You save everybody else. That's what Raymond does. That's what makes you mine. What makes you mine. Not my brother. Like I'm something she built. Something she painted blue. Something she kept despite the odds. The transformation accelerates. I watch it happen. Watch Denise's body rewrite itself for underwater survival. Watch her eyes change. Watch her breathe faster, faster, then slower as her respiratory system adapts for water instead of air. Watch her hand release Terrell's hand because the fingers don't bend that way anymore. Watch my sister become something that needs to return to the water. Dr. Arnaud is beside me. Mr. Baptiste. She's going to need water soon. Full immersion. If she doesn't get it, she'll die. I finish. Yes. How long? Maybe an hour. Maybe less. 1 hour. The flood surge starts in 6 hours. We're going to flood the lower ninth with Denise still in quarantine. Unless we give her what she needs. unless we let her go back to the water, back to the contaminated flood zones that we're about to flush into the Gulf, back to the water that will carry her downstream with 300 other entities, back to drowning. The math is simple. The math is terrible. I look at Terrell, at my nephew who's watching his mother transform, who drove through contaminated water to save her, who might be infected himself, who's 22 years old and shouldn't have to watch this. We need to let her go, I say. What? Terrell, we need to let her go back to the water. That's what she needs. That's what she's asking for. Uncle Ray, if we let her go, she drowns when we flood the zones. I know, but she drowns as herself, not restrained in quarantine, not suffocating on air. She goes back to the water and she gets maybe 6 hours of what? Life? That's not life. 6 hours of existing before the current takes her. That's murder. That's mercy. I look at Dr. Arnaud, right? That's the humane thing. She doesn't answer immediately. Medical ethics, research protocols, CDC guidelines for handling transformed hosts. None of that applies here. None of that matters. Yes, she finally says. That's the humane thing. I look at Colonel Blanchard. He's been standing in the doorway, listening, calculating. You need her to go back to the water. You need to see where she goes, what the entities do when they're in their optimal environment. That would provide valuable intelligence, he admits. But you let her go. You track her. You use her to verify that the flood surge works, that the current pushes them downstream like I said it will. You use my sister's transformation for your mission, and I finish your pump shutdown protocol. The calculation is happening in his eyes again. The military math. One infected host versus intelligence data. Personal tragedy versus tactical advantage. Agreed, he says. I look at Terrell, at my nephew who's holding his mother's transformed hand. Terrell, you need to let her go. I can't. You have to. She's my mother. I know. And she's my sister. And we're letting her go because that's what she needs and because that's the only choice we have. He's crying, still holding her hand, still hoping for something that's not going to happen. Denise looks at him, still has recognition, still has something human in those adapted eyes. Baby, let me go. Let me see the water one more time before. She stops. Can't finish. The vocal cords aren't working right anymore. Terrell releases her hand. The medical team removes the restraints. Denise sits up, stands. Her legs work differently now, jointed for swimming, not walking, but she manages. She walks toward the exit, toward the parking lot, toward the flooded streets of the lower Ninth. We follow her. Me and Terrell and Dr. Arnaud and Colonel Blanchard and a guard team with tracking equipment. We watch Denise walk across the parking lot in the afternoon sun. Watch her reach the flood line where St. Claude Avenue disappears underwater. Watch her wade in. Watch the water reach her waist, her chest, her neck. Watch her submerge. Watch my sister disappear into contaminated water that will carry her to the Gulf in 6 hours. Terrell is beside me, not crying anymore, just watching. Uncle Ray, did we just kill her? I'm watching the tracking monitor, watching the GPS signal from the emergency beacon Dr. Arnaud attached to Denise, watching it move through the flooded streets, toward the other signals, toward 300 entities converging on the pump stations. We let her go. There's a difference. Is there? I don't answer. I'm watching the monitor, watching Denise swim toward Canal Street 4, toward the pump station where I saw the first transformed body 6 hours ago, toward the intake pipes that lead into the city water supply. The entities are gathering there. All of them. 300 signals converging on 7 pump stations. They're coordinating, Dr. Arnaud says. They're not randomly spreading. They're targeting the water infrastructure. Because the pathogen is intelligent, Terrell says. Quiet. It's using them to spread. And we're about to flood the zones and kill them all. That's the mission, Colonel Blanchard says. That's the mission. That's the math. That's what we do. I walk back inside, back to the map table, back to the pump station schematics. I pick up a marker and I finish the shutdown protocol. I document every step, every valve, every circuit, every failsafe. I write it down like I'm teaching someone who's never seen a pump system before, like I'm explaining it to Terrell when he was 12 and asked me why the city needed levees if it wasn't near a river. Because water always finds a way in, I told him then. So we build walls and we build pumps and we build systems to control it. But water always wins eventually. All we can do is delay it. 2 hours later, the protocol is done. The engineers have it. They understand it. They can execute it. 3 hours later, the locks are closed. The target zone is isolated. 4 hours later, the pumps we control start running in reverse, pulling water from the Mississippi, pushing it into the isolated zone, creating the flood surge. 5 hours later, the water level in the lower ninth is rising. 6 inches, 12 inches, 24 inches. The current is building. The entities are being pushed downstream toward the outfall canals, toward the Gulf. 6 hours later, Denise's signal disappears, along with 300 other signals. Gone. Flushed downstream into the Gulf of Mexico, where the current disperses them into open water where they can't reach anyone, can't infect anyone, can't spread. The mission succeeds. Denise drowns. The math works. It's been 6 weeks since we flooded the lower ninth. I coordinate pump station operations now. Emergency response protocols. Orleans Parish pays me more GS-12 level federal contractor rates because I'm the expert on containment procedures, the expert on what to do when waterborne pathogens target your city infrastructure. Terrell tested negative for infection. 3 blood panels. Full medical clearance. He's back at UNO. They reopened his environmental engineering program. He's writing his thesis on post-disaster contamination response, using what happened as a case study, changing names, following federal non-disclosure protocols, but writing it anyway because that's what you do with knowledge. You document it. You pass it on. You make sure the next person knows what to do. He doesn't talk to me much, calls once a week, tells me about classes, about his thesis research, about the girl he's seeing, Jasmine. She's studying public health. They met at a memorial service for the victims. 312 confirmed transformations, 843 casualties from the flooding, including 300 people who refused to evacuate, including Denise. Her body was never recovered. None of them were. The Gulf took them, dispersed them. The Coast Guard found some remains, changed remains, washed up on barrier islands 6 weeks later, ran DNA tests, confirmed identities, confirmed the transformation was permanent, confirmed the pathogen died in salt water, confirmed that we drowned 300 people to stop something that couldn't survive in the ocean. The math worked. The mission succeeded. New Orleans didn't become a contamination zone. 300,000 people didn't get infected. The city survived. I help coordinate the rebuilding now. The lower ninth residential sectors that flooded, they're condemned. Federal buyout program. For square miles of the city declared uninhabitable due to persistent biological contamination in the soil, in the water table, in the foundations of every house that went underwater. Denise's house is gone. They bulldozed it. Didn't salvage anything. Too contaminated. Everything she built, everything she painted blue, everything she made hers, gone. I work 16-hour days now, more than before. Orleans Parish needs the pump systems rebuilt, needs new protocols, needs someone who understands how intelligent pathogens target water infrastructure. That's me. That's what I do. I don't date. Denise was right about that. The truck requires less explanation. Terrell called yesterday, asked if I wanted to come to Thanksgiving. His girlfriend's family is cooking. Traditional meal. Safe neighborhood. No flood zones nearby. He said it would be good for me. Said I shouldn't be alone. I told him I'd think about it. I won't go. I work the holiday shifts. Someone has to monitor the pumps. Someone has to check the intake screens. Someone has to make sure nothing's in the water that shouldn't be there. Last week I was at Canal Street for regular maintenance inspection. The intake screens are new now, military-grade filtration, mesh spacing down to ½ inch. Nothing gets through. Nothing organic. Nothing alive. I was checking the grating. Found debris caught in the mesh. Pulled it out. Just trash. Plastic bottle. Piece of fabric. Blue fabric. Same color as Denise's shutters. Same color as our grandmother's house. I held it for maybe 10 minutes, standing on the walkway above the water, looking at this piece of blue fabric that probably came from anywhere, from anyone, from any house in any neighborhood that got bulldozed in the past 6 weeks. But it was blue like Denise's shutters. I put it in my pocket. I still have it. It's in my truck, in the glove compartment, next to the maintenance log where I write down pump status and water temperature and intake debris and everything else that's supposed to matter. Terrell asked me once if I think about her, about what happened, about the choice I made. I don't think. I calculate. Water flow rates, contamination vectors, pump system vulnerabilities. I document everything. I write it down. I make sure the next person knows what to do. I don't think about Denise walking into the water, about watching her submerge, about her GPS signal disappearing 6 hours later somewhere in the Gulf. I don't think about her saying, "That's what makes you mine," like I was something she built, something she kept. I don't think about the 300 people who drowned because they refused to evacuate, about whether we could have saved them if we'd had more time, about whether the math was right. I calculate. I document. I work. That's what Raymond does. That's what makes me mine. The pump stations run 24 hours. The water flows. The city doesn't flood. The system works. I check my phone. Terrell texted. Reminder about Thanksgiving. Jasmine's family wants to meet me. She's heard about what I did. Wants to thank me for saving the city. I don't respond. I'm at Pump Station Canal Street 4. Checking intake screens, monitoring water temperature, writing it down in the daily log. 61 degrees, same as it was 6 weeks ago, same as it was when I first saw the body in the water. The math was right. The mission succeeded. The city survived. Denise drowned. I checked the screens again. Nothing caught in the mesh. Nothing organic. Nothing alive. I check anyway. I'll check again tomorrow. And the day after, and the day after that, because water always finds a way in. And I need to make sure nothing's swimming in it. Nothing that used to be a person. Nothing that used to be mine.